was very simple that we did not want to do just a dialogue discussion. So we thought, why not a summit? So let's bring 4 or 5 different stalwarts talking about gender, talking about crime, talking about organized crime and environment, and also making sure that we don't limit it to the college kids. So in order to amalgamate that, we thought a summit, speakers would come in, they will put their ideas, and also we added one more thing. We allow even a 6th grader to somebody who's in the final year of college, send us a recommendation paper. So for example, you give me 2 points, I give 2 points. You may come from whatever background, I may come from whatever background. The recommendation paper comes from only one background, is to solve the climate issue.
So was there a criteria for selection of these children coming in from different schools?
Fantastic question. That's a brilliant question. Okay, so the criteria is very simple. 99% of the people you see in the room have gone through all different kinds of programs and model events and workshops that we have done. So we now know the filtered crowd setting. I'm sure you must have heard their questions. 6th graders asking questions that brings awe to an ambassador as well. That okay, wow, a 6th grader by asking this question is because we filtered them, trained them, we know what they can bring on the table. Hence the parameter was, have we interacted with them before? Have they shown their mettle before? If yes, then we take them ahead. That's pretty much all.
So how can youth engagement be enhanced in international climate discourse? Because with increasing climate change talks going all over the world, you heard in the G20 summit what was India's take and how the globe is actually responding to it. It becomes very integral for the youth to actually come up and see how it is going on. So how do you think we can engage them more and more?
Very simple. So let's look at the basic math. We go out and we throw garbage here and there. We do it one day. And if it gets happening every single day, multiply the number of people we have in India, imagine in one particular day how many plastic bags have been thrown out. So if in case I start reducing it and I start vocalizing it, please understand that audibility and visibility is what everybody wants in life. Recognition is what everybody wants in life. It's clearly visible, it's hot out there, it's clearly visible why. The question is it audible enough to the people who don't know why? If I know the why, I don't want to be wowed by the fact that, oh, what a policy. I want to bring a how. How do I solve it? For me, my team, we're solving it this fashion. This is not the only project that we are doing at this point in time. We are bringing across the fact that the internship that goes across, they're going to go out on the field. They will work with the NGOs to understand that, as another 6th grader mentioned, 2 trees, 1 big company, they say, what a wonderful job done. So if in case 1.7 billion people planting half of the population trees, if in case counted, the work is half done. And that's what we're going to do once we start on the ground level, and that's what the internship is all about.
We as team implementers, we have been separately working on multiple sustainable development goals. So last year we were working on quality education, and this year we thought that, given the climate crisis, we need not wait for another climate disaster to be able to, convene a summit and have multiple stakeholders. So the idea was to have ambassadors, policy advocates, researchers and students on board so that we have a multilateral and a multi-stakeholder perspective coming in for the summit today.
So what was your key takeaway from the event?
Honestly, my key takeaway was, of course, a lot of learnings that I, learned from the panelists. But if you ask me my star moment was, those surprised faces of the panelists when they actually saw a 6th grader standing up and asking a relevant question, and 8th grader standing up and showing them their research. Some of them have submitted their papers to the panelists that please go ahead and just look at it and review it whenever you can. And I think that is the enthusiasm that we today need to actually bridge the gap between discussion and action for climate.
I was very impressed to see young people engaging themselves with the issue of climate change. It's perhaps the most important existentialist threat for humankind and our planet. And it's important that people at their own level understand and engage themselves with it. And I want to therefore thank the implementers. Really good initiative, and it's important. It's not only for governments, it's not only for corporates, but people must understand. Then believe me, corporates and governments will also understand.
Truly, sir, that was remarkable. Like, reflecting on your diplomatic career, which has been for so long, how have international climate policies evolved over the years?
The fact that you're talking about climate change and the fact that we're having this is only because it has evolved globally, hasn't it? Do you know any other institutional get-togethers in the world other than the United Nations annual event where heads of state and government repeatedly land up to negotiate matters? It's only been climate change. Why? Because it affects every country, it affects every citizen, and it is a matter of great importance to countries in their own quest for their own power, their own development, etc. Which is why this is a subject matter which engages the world, It also makes the world quite competitive, sometimes collaborative. We must have much more collaboration. But it is, in the end, the negotiations, a power game of nations. India has taken the lead in a very big way. In 2015, Prime Minister Modi announced that India would do what it could in terms of nationally determined contributions. We've taken on huge challenges in the area of solar power, in the area of renewable power in general. We're taking on a massive green hydrogen mission. We're doing afforestation. We've also, in Glasgow in 2021, announced a net zero by 2070 commitment for India. So we are a country which is a major player in the world, the fifth largest economy, which is committed to sustainability. And this is something that we have said nationally that we will do. And therefore, look at the contribution that we will be making to the world and are already making to the world in terms of action on climate change. Let me just point out one simple thing to you. India's espousal of solar energy has single-handedly meant that in the global south, people have realized that this is something that can be done. It can be done cost effectively and it's for their benefit. And look at the global positive fallouts as a result of that.
Every aspect of the Sustainable Development Goals has intersectionality to disability and to gender, whether it's climate, whether it's health, whether it's infrastructure, urban planning, etc., etc., etc. Gender is cross-cutting across all these verticals. And today, the youth raised a very important issue of gender-based violence, and I'm so glad they raised this issue of gender-based violence. And if you look at gender-based violence from the climate perspective, it is a lot of there are different areas where gender-based violence comes into play. It comes into play in terms of displacement, in terms of disasters, etc. And the example that we spoke about was, suppose there is a cyclone and people have been displaced, and along with everybody who's been displaced, there are women. But when we look at accommodations for people who've been displaced, are we looking at accommodations for women, for example? Are we looking at accommodations for their safety, their toilets, lighting, etc.? And all these accommodations, when they're not looked into, all this leads to gender-based violence.
Right. Ma'am, this could be a bit of controversial question, and coming from, maybe a media personnel, you might want to answer or might not, it's completely your call. But you spoke about gender violence on women particularly, and I would like to address, what do you think should be the real laws that should be actually taken forward so that this gender-based violence just doesn't credit to a certain gender, but inclusively? What would you recommend, ma'am?
So thanks, Janvi. That's a very important question. And while gender-based violence is across all genders, it's not only for women, laws are in place. It is the mindset of the people, of you and me, who are the perpetuators of gender-based violence that needs to change. Our mindset, our cultural fabric needs to change. We have to stop epitomizing machoism. We have to stop giving into peer pressure, which glorifies body shaming. We need to stop liking those posts on Instagram, which is causing mental health issues to women or any gender, for example, bullying. So all this, in a holistic manner, leads to gender-based violence, and it's not only for a particular gender, a woman. It is across all genders, but it is the mindset of the people.
Whenever we talk about climate itself, what does climate mean? The continuum between land, water, forests, and how they connect with each other. And then justice itself is a very big concept as well, because we are talking about justice, fairness, and equity internationally between rich nations, developed nations, and developing countries, but also locally in terms of the communities that are facing displacement disproportionately, for bringing about economic development for the rest of the population.
So how do land rights intersect with climate change, particularly concerning marginalized communities, ma'am?
So, as you may know, 60% of Indians are dependent upon land for their livelihood. Land is a very special thing because it is not just an economic source of livelihood, it also provides shelter. It is what provides cultural roots, identity, and history are all inextricably linked with the land. We saw this during the COVID pandemic when people who were economic migrants to cities, they lost their jobs because of the pandemic. Everybody went back to their village. They walked thousands of miles because they knew that as long as they can reach their land, they will be safe, they will have shelter, they will have, even if they don't have a salary because they don't have a job, they will be able to live off the land. So that is how crucial land rights are to everything that is important for our basic survival: food security, shelter, housing. Everything is connected to the land. And what I further talked about was about the indigenous imagination, wherein land, water, and forest, Jal, Jangal, Zameen, is part of one indivisible ecosystem. So we cannot talk about land rights without water and forest rights.
How do you think international cooperation be strengthened to address transnational environmental crimes?
Well, in terms of transnational environmental crime, as I've mentioned during the summit, that it's basically the environmental crimes are also a multi-billion-dollar criminal networks, and it is a transnational part of transnational organized crime, wherein we talk about wildlife trafficking, we talk about illegal logging and other issues. So at the international level, we do have Convention on Transnational Organized Crime, which could be used by the member states to strengthen more and to pressure the countries to work more towards that convention on the transnational organized crime. And of course, there are different international laws and policies which are dealing with wildlife trafficking per se, which are dealing with forest related issues and other things which could be looked into. And it's very, very important to work for the member states across the globe to work together on this particular issue of environmental crime, and to make the people who are responsible for making the damage, to make them accountable at the global level, at the regional and at the national level. And of course, it's very important at the to make the law enforcement officers build their capacity, provide them training, give them solutions, and also to have some kind of mutual legal assistance treaties and conventions to be in place to get the perpetrators to be at justice.
According to me, more than it being difficult, I think there is a general lack of awareness when we talk about it. When we talk about summits like this, students prefer going to competitions which are much more in trend. So making something sound trendy but making it academic as well is a little difficult of a task in India. And the another thing that we have realized over the years is that they're really looking forward to an affiliation, a brand affiliation, instead of them being considered a brand. So that is something I believe that is why Shpreet said that it was a little difficult. But I think more than it being difficult or challenging, it was a new way of thinking that we were trying to propagate, and that is the reason it took us some time.
There are multiple topics out there, but the point is most of them are being discussed as the part of a Model United Nations or a debate competition, which is good, but it does not cater out to the actual policy initiative these students are capable of. So we wanted something where students can get insights from the experienced policymakers, move into their own youth dialogue, and ultimately recommend a policy which they can run as an internship, and that will shine as a very big limelight in their CVs and their profiles when they go for future. So then the summit idea came across. Now the topic was very important because there are multiple things coming across, but the most important things concerning COP is happening, and the last one recently concluded. So we had let's do something related to climate. But now climate change is also a very common topic. So we explored a bit and came to a conclusion: climate justice with intersection with sustainability, global affairs, as well as the gender part, as the panelists discussed. We divided the sub-agendas with them, and that is how the topic got curated, and that is how we made it possible.
It's my first summit, and I'm really enjoying. I get this opportunity to meet a lot of members, panelists who are so experienced and involved in every aspect of climate change. I got an opportunity to ask them questions, to debate in these sessions, and I'm really glad I was a part of this.
The main key takeaway I take from here is that there should be proper implementation of the solution at a local level.